News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
A woman is in custody after striking a child with her vehicle while driving drunk. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning. It's Thursday, October 20th, 2016. Right now, the sky is cloudy. We have exactly 32 degrees. It is freezing. There are some bare and wet roads throughout western Montana right now. And our newscast this morning, sponsored by Transport Equipment, your headquarters for RV service, maintenance, and repair on Inspiration Drive. A Missoula woman is in custody this morning on a felony charge after allegedly driving drunk last night and striking a pedestrian in Missoula's South Hills just after 7 o'clock. Sergeant Jerry Odlin with the Missoula Police Department provides these details.
Missoula police officers, Missoula Fire Department, and Missoula Emergency Services responded to the intersection of 23rd and 55th for the report of a vehicle versus pedestrian accident. When officers arrived, they discovered that a juvenile was struck by a car, but he suffered non-life-threatening injuries.
Odlin identified the woman who was driving at the time of the incident.
Officers also made contact with a 49-year-old Missoula resident, Wendy Chauncey, where she was processed for driving under the influence. She was ultimately arrested and charged for driving under the influence, negligent vehicular assault, and criminal child endangerment. The criminal child endangerment charge is a felony, which results when you are charged with driving under the influence and you have a juvenile in the car with you.
Chose is in the Missoula County Jail on over $60,000 bail. After a non-stranger's sexual assault was reported on the U of M campus Tuesday, Paula Short, Director of Communications for the President's Office, pointed out the many efforts the school's undertaken to combat the problem of sexual assault.
All of the measures that the university has undertaken in the last 3 years have done a lot to heighten the awareness on campus. The training that we do for students, the bystander training, has certainly done a lot to raise folks' awareness about really what defines an assault.
Short said even other schools have looked to Montana for ideas on how to handle the sexual assault problem.
We've been consulted by other universities sort of wanting to model some of the things that we've put in place on the campus. So I think we're doing a good job. Unfortunately, these situations do still exist, and when they arise, the university responds the best way that we can.
It's not known if there's a suspect in custody from the Tuesday night sexual assault. And in a related story, Missoula Police Public Information Officer Travis Welsh said there are currently 2 sexual assault investigations going on at the University of Montana. Although many are aware of the assault that happened this week, we just mentioned, after campus police posted messages on social media. The second investigation actually began last week.
Last Friday, October the 14th, an adult female came to the police department and met with a detective, and she reported an incident that had occurred to her on October the 7th involving a male acquaintance. In fact, what she reported was that they had non-consensual sex. We have assigned that detective to the case. He is working on an ongoing investigation.
So far, the suspect's name has not been released because an investigation is ongoing. Welsh says the sexual assault appears to have occurred between 2 students on campus. The Commission on Sentencing is recommending lawmakers close a loophole in child sex abuse sentencing laws that allowed an eastern Montana man to be put on probation after pleading guilty to raping his 12-year-old daughter. State Prosecutor Dan Kuczynski proposed yesterday eliminating an exception to a mandatory minimum 25-year prison sentence for offenders convicted of rape, incest, or sexual abuse if the victim is 12 or younger. Under the exception, if a psychosexual evaluation determines the offender can be treated in their community and the sentence protects the victim in society, the offender can receive a lesser sentence. Kuczynski argues it doesn't make sense that a community could be safer with a child rapist there. The recommendation was included in a bill being forwarded to the legislature that makes proposed revisions to several sentencing laws. A U.S. lawmaker says loopholes in federal laws have left authorities with little leverage in seeking the return of tribal religious items that are illegal to trade in the U.S. but sell for thousands of dollars in foreign markets. The comments Tuesday by Senator Martin Heinrich, a New Mexico Democrat, came during a field hearing in Albuquerque, where tribal leaders and representatives of several federal agencies, including the U.S. State Department, Interior, and Justice Departments, are all delivering testimony. Heinrich has sponsored legislation in the Senate seeking to broaden the scope of a federal law designed to crack down on looting, trafficking, and exporting of federally protected Native American items. The legislation would prohibit dealers from exporting protected Native American items of cultural or historic importance. While general rifle season doesn't officially begin till Saturday, young hunters have an opportunity to get ahead of the game. Starting today, hunters between the ages of 10 and 15 have the opportunity to take an early shot. Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Public Information Officer Vivica Krauser explains.
A couple things that are important to remember is those youth must have a non-hunting adult with them. Typically that ends up being a parent or a grandparent, somebody that can mentor them in the field. And it's only for deer, not elk. So that's also important to remember. And all the regular regulations for the hunting district that person is hunting in apply.
Although mule deer populations seem to be in decline right now, both whitetail and elk numbers indicate this may be a good season for hunters.
We have seen really good success from the archery hunters so far, and our spring surveys that help us estimate deer and elk populations in a lot of areas looked really good. Seems like we're on an upward trend in most spots. There's a few exceptions in the region where numbers aren't where we want them to be, but by and large, there's a lot of opportunity out there. So now it'll probably come down to really what happens with the weather.
FWP sold out of its out-of-state licenses this past week, something that hasn't happened in years, which means more visitor money will be flowing into Montana during hunting season than last year. Finally, Northwestern Energy has successfully appealed its 2016 taxable valuation and reduced its projected property taxes by $29 million. The Billings Gazette reports the utility reached the agreement with the Department of Revenue on Friday. Agency appraisers had increased the value of Northwestern Energy's Montana properties from $2.2 billion in 2015 to $2.6 billion. The negotiated settlement sets the taxable value at $2.4 billion. Our News Talk time is 6:12.
News Talk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Mostly cloudy skies today with a chance of showers during the afternoon. Daytime highs will top out in the mid-50s. Rain likely early this evening with overnight lows in the low 40s. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for Missoula's KECI 13.